So in this video, we're starting to introduce a review topic, which is solving proportions. Now, a proportion is simply an equation where you have a fraction on each side of the equal sign. And we've got a couple of rules. So when we solve the proportion, we're going to cross multiply, so which means we're going to multiply b times c and a times d. So if we have a proportion that's equal to each other, then this product, a times d, is equal to b times c. And here, a, b, c, and d are just numbers, so no worries there. And also, if I have a proportion, and I have a over b equals c over d, then I can simply flip both fractions and maintain the equality. So b over a is still equal to d over c. But you do have to flip both fractions. So using these rules, I'm going to go ahead and solve both equations. For example, in part A, which I'm going to do in green, this is example 22, I have an x on the bottom. You never really want to have a variable on the bottom unless you absolutely can't do anything else with it. So what I'm going to do to my first step is going to flip each fraction. It's very important that you flip each one, that way you maintain the equality. If you only flip one of them, then this is not equal anymore. So my problem becomes x over 4 equals 7 over 5. Now what I want to do is to cross multiply. So to do that, I'm going to multiply 4 times 7 and 5 times x. So I have 5x equals 4 times 7, which is just simply 28. Now I'm going to solve by dividing by 5. And we get x equals 28 over 5, because that doesn't reduce very nicely at all. So I'm going to leave it alone. You could turn it into a decimal and round if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. Okay, now let's do the similar idea with part B in example 22. Again, I have a variable on the bottom, so I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do is flip both fractions, and again, you have to flip both. So I have y plus 2 over 3 equals y over 2. Only reason why I flip both fractions here is because, for me at least, it's easier to solve these problems when the variable is on top. Okay? It can be solved if the variable is on bottom, it's just it throws in an extra step or two. So now that I have flipped both fractions and I have my variable on top, I'm going to cross multiply again. So I'm going to say 3 times y equals 2 times y plus 2. But what you notice here is I have more than one thing on top. So as we discussed in class, anytime you have a fraction and there's more than one thing on top or more than one thing on bottom, you have to put parentheses around it. So when I multiply, I'm multiplying 2 times the quantity of y plus 2. So what we end up with is 2 times the quantity of y plus 2. Don't forget the parentheses, that's very important. And that's going to be equal to 3y. Alright, so what I want to do now is I have distributive property. So I have 2y plus 4 equals 3y. And now I want to go ahead and get y's on my right hand side. So I'm going to subtract 2y. So I have 4 equals 1y. And I'm just going to get y by itself by dividing by divide by 1. Which means y equals 4 over 1. Or just y equals 4. So this one came out to be very nice. However, since in my original problem I started off with my variable on the bottom, anytime you start off with the variable on the bottom, you need to go back and check to make sure that your proportion does not have a 0 on the bottom. So you go back and plug in. Well, 4 plus 2 is 6, that's okay. And then 4 on the bottom, that's okay. So neither one of these fractions had 0 on the bottom, so I'm going to keep my answer y equals 4. Again, anytime you're solving with a fraction like we did in the previous chapters, you cannot ever have a 0 on the bottom of a fraction, no matter what. No zeros on the bottom. Okay. And that's it for this video. Again, solving proportions is a review. Let me know if you got questions.